things and people and businesses and driving and whatever it is. Parks, water, hillsides. I mean, it's just the urban framework is just this whole constellation of things. Now some of them have a very simple natural condition. Why is the mountain where the mountain is? Well, if you study a little bit on geology, you understand that plates are moving and that because of the shift on climate that certain areas are being raised. The Himalayas are the Himalayas because India is basically moving north every year. It's actually very simple. That's why the mountain is there. Okay, you know that explanation. You can go deeper with the why and ask yourself, why is Earth moving? But that's far enough for us because we're not geologists. We want to understand the first part. There's a river here flowing. Why is the river here flowing? Okay, you can go check it out. There's the sea here, there's a mountain there, it's flowing there. It explains. Maybe there was a river flowing, but there's not a river flowing anymore. Case study in China, a lot of places. But somewhere down the line here, someone said, here's a nice place to put a dam. We can get a lot of energy. But anyone who's living south of this dam, from a river that used to flow like this, basically there's a stream coming down here now. And all the economies, all the fisheries, all the things that were placed here for the hundreds of years that kind of supported their economy based on that and their livelihood on that, suddenly gets shifted because of this moment.
We're damned.
Yeah. Huh? We get damned. You know? So, but okay, that's another one. But then there's more stuff. Then there's like, okay, so this is like natural that has become semi-natural through an influence maybe, if you're depending on what side you're on here, with these natural conditions. So then help you explain, okay, so what is where and why? So we start with a very simple thing called the natural terrain. It's there whether we are there or not. And then comes human presence. Now there's habitation. And they start to do things. And we're looking at a city and we want to try to understand the city. We want to understand why is New York is like that. Why is Amsterdam, why is Amsterdam? Why is Rotterdam, why is Rotterdam? I mean, Rotterdam we can explain quite easily, to a certain extent. We can talk about a recent history of 60 years. Let's say, well, Rotterdam is a kind of post-modern architectural city because everything there has been built only in the last 50 years. That explains. That's why we have a relatively recent modern architectural layout. Amsterdam, the urban fabric, the architectural fabric, has been there for hundreds of years. So it has that. So okay, that's another explanation. So there you have this, there you have that. Then you're going again into architectural form. Also has a reasoning. Now you could take a step further. Well, why is the city structured like that? You know, why is Amsterdam like this? And why is Rotterdam, in fact, something fundamentally different? And why is Utrecht the way it is? Because then now we're talking about not anymore the little houses, architecture form. Now we're trying to look at it more of a structuring element that somehow seems to be there. Structuring elements somehow seem to create, in this case, kind of a grid-like structure for this area that we're dealing with. Or another area that has a complete different structure, the infinite structures. What makes them start to be that way? What conditions them? And in the case of Amsterdam, I mean, you have enough Dutch people here to explain why is Amsterdam like this?
Just to deal with the history of the fishermen.
It's based on the infrastructure dominance of a certain economy.
Yeah.
So the transport was done by boats and by water, so they needed to bring that into in the inner city, let's
Okay,
say.
so transport played a role there.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Growth,
Growth. Okay. Safety.
economy, the trading.
I mean, how much of Holland is below sea level?
2/3.
So this is, what they call the grachtengordel systeem. which was there before many of the roads were there, just the way it was. In fact, a lot of Holland's cities are nothing more than a further superimposition of the landscape structure that was underneath it. So the landscape, which was there, what farmers for histories have been using to develop their livelihoods on, and to organize their safety, and to organize the water, and to transport their goods, and to farm, and etc., set the foundational structure, which upon most of the cities have been evolved on. Even Rotterdam, to a large extent. Except they got a kind of a reload moment 60 years ago. They kind of, okay, so they could rethink it. And they closed a lot of their grachten, because they also had a lot of water channels. They closed them up to make a little bit more efficient land use. They create viaducts, so they can think of mass movement inside a city, which Amsterdam, Utrecht, and The Hague don't have. You can actually move with these arteries. It's now Amsterdam is trying to invest in huge investments to create that. So Rotterdam, I said, hey, they did an upgrade. Okay, they had a disaster, but they used the disaster as an opportunity. And they created a more efficient city. Kind of a Los Angelino of Holland. A highway city, if we even have a highway city to an extent. But now, many years later, they're like, okay, we have an efficient city, but we don't have the tourism that Amsterdam has. But our city isn't aesthetically interesting. So now they start looking, if you look at the 2030 structure plan of Rotterdam, they reintroduce all the grachten again to the city. Because grachten makes water, makes livelihood, raises the potential value of the land. Because to have a water channel in front of your house, who wouldn't want that? So you see these kind of shifts taking place here. So we go back here and we start saying, okay, so what are, when I started to talk about characteristics, there's the geographic sense, the landscape, we can talk about the climatic conditions here, we can talk about the seasons, there are all these things and sciences that we can pick from that can help us to characterize this. But when I'm going to go now and say, okay, so now I think I understand this, and I actually want to go now, and I want to make an intervention. I want to actually do something. I want to go to this place, and I want to, either because of what my analysis told me, there's certain kind of, if I do a SWOT analysis, and I realize, these kind of threats are there, and these kind of dangers are there, so these are the strengths of this, whatever it is, and I want to enhance the system. I want an intervention here to help support it to progressively grow. And I want to do something, whether it's introduce a program, or if I want to introduce a road that kind of cuts through this fabric that I think for some reason will be interesting. What's the logic that I use to make my choice on program or to make my choice on structure? Based on what do I modify structure, and based on what do I include program or activity?
Desire.
Ideas? Go ahead.
Desire, supply.
Desire, supply, okay, so say we'll call that demand. So, okay, you've done maybe some interviews, you've done an enquête, you realize that, so we say demand. They want this, I want a school, I want a business, I want a park. So you've done your interviews, okay, so you've collected. Any other ideas on dealing with program activity?
Safety. Social.
Safety? Safety? Sorry?
Social.
Explain?
Well, if somebody want to add some activity to a neighborhood, but it just doesn't fit in the neighborhood, it's probably not going to work.
Okay, so based on what are you choosing to make something? Or are you now giving an example based on something not to do something?
Yeah, or if the
Because Wilder says the social demand.
Yeah.
He says here, the social demand, because it's only needed. Social is like always there.
I mean,
We're not
also,
asking animals.
also economic demand, actually.
Or,
Okay, so that's interesting. So we got social demand,
or theory, a theory, could be anything.
economic demand. The general theory.
Also feasibility, technical feasibility, but also social, economic feasibility.
If you look at
Well-
safety, also the threat, natural threat, floodings, for example.
Well, if there's like demand, there's also question. I mean, the demand comes from what the people want, and the question is what the implementers, top-down implementers want to be, like that place to be.
So this social demand is then asking people around. The economic demand can also be from, I guess, someone living in a neighborhood that says, hey, I want to make some business, no?
Mm.
But the country can say, hey guys, you know, we gotta move into leisure tourism.
Yeah.
So the government is saying now, we're gonna go. So there's a demand from that high level. So up or down, doesn't matter, it comes from here.
And maybe also supply, we have a lot of this, that's,
Okay. Supply.
Fiscal conditions.
Let's leave that for now. Now let's look at this part here. Based on what, once you've been able to think a little bit and use your tools, asking people, asking the government, walking around, looking at the conditions, when you've been able to collect enough things that have been able to inform you what could be an interesting program or activity that an area needs, how do you now go about placing it? Because what is where and why, you're saying, okay, my program is this, the what, which you derived out of here. Your why, you're deriving out of support mechanism here. And you're gonna put it here, because this is our domain again. We're the wheres. We need to be able to connect these two.
Mobility of people, mobility of product,
So,
type of mechanism, vehicles, infrastructure.
okay, so we say mobility, form of transport,
morphology.
Product of transport.
explain morphology.
The form of the fabric, urban fabric around it, is it high rise, is it low rise, is it, it has
Also
to sort of,
geological.
it has to sort of fit or not fit, but you have to make a statement about it.
Oh, it has to do with the urban structure, not
So
geology.
does it fit?
I think subsoil.
Well, yeah, if the
Soil.
geological condition isn't
Um,
able to support something, you.
No doubt, but her statement has to do with the urban structure.
Oh, yeah.
Soil
Added
conditions.
value potential.
And subsoil.
Sorry?
Subsoil.
And subsoil.
How about the added value potentials? Like costs.
What do you mean?
Excessive.
Well, like what you have basically, which causes gentrification. Like you have certain underdeveloped sites, and you want to create, you know, like it has the most potential to be upgraded.
Okay.
So
So it's, how would you phrase that? What you're discussing about.
Surplus
Is
value.
that not more?
Yeah,
not
so
more
potential.
the what and the why?
I feel it is too.
Because the what is the program and the why is because the economical value. But
Or the social value.
yeah,
yeah, but
So
the where
this
can
is-
also relate on, you know, the potential where to create this the biggest.
Let's say the
want.
identity or the specific domain,
So we're gonna call it genius loci.
public or private, accessibility. That's a big difference.
I'm gonna come back to this. I wanna take a little bit of case example, case study. Which I'm sure many of you are in some way aware of. Let's